Welcome to the Leadmore Podcast. I'm your host, John T. Meyer. Now, the Leadmore Podcast is the show where we sit down with leaders of today to help inspire and create more leaders for tomorrow. And today, my friends, we are at episode 52. We made it. We made it an entire year of the Leadmore Podcast. And gosh, I thank you. I thank you for being along with us on this journey. Whether you listen to one episode or 52, thank you, Mom. I'm so grateful for any time that you chose to listen to the Leadmore Podcast. Now, the Leadmore Podcast started with two simple core premises. One, the world needs more leaders. Now, if we rewind 12 months, we're talking about June. I'm actually starting to think about this in March, April of 2020. The world has gone into a global pandemic. Our leaders, many have gone missing in action, just disappearing, while others have really stepped up and risen to the occasion. And as a business leader, I thought, we need more leaders, not just today during this pandemic, but moving forward, whether it be political, business, church, nonprofit, community, neighborhoods, families, parents. We need more leaders. So that was this original idea that I've been chewing on for a while, even before into 2019. But then secondly, if you think forward about May and then into June, before we started episode 1, that leadership doesn't always look like the way we think. It is not based on, it should not be based on where you go to school, where you grew up, what zip code you were born into, your diploma, your height, the color of your skin, whatever it might be, your name, right? I realize, look, I'm a white male. My name is John, and I'm a CEO. That's a lot of pretty traditional boxes to check. And so I felt like we need to showcase leadership in different ways. And we need to show people, give people a voice and give people a platform to share their story of leadership. And many of the guests that we invited to bring onto the show, when asked, they thought, why are you asking me? I'm not a leader. What do you mean? Why do you want to talk to me? And that's where I knew we were onto something right. So that's how the show started. Between December 2019 and May 2020, I had these ideas bouncing around in my head, and I said, I'm going to start a podcast. Now that's sort of the why. Let me tell you two other reasons. One's more tactical and strategic, and one was more personal and like a challenge. The other reason I started the show is somebody once told me, someone smart who I trust, the podcast is the new cold email. Now, this is sort of the marketing entrepreneurial part of me coming through here, but what he means by that is the podcast is now your gate or your key to a conversation with nearly anybody in the world, right? And let's think about this past 52 episodes, this past year. Had conversations with Governor Dugard, President Stephanie Herseth Sandlin, Kim Ball-Scott, New York Times bestselling author, SDSU head football coach John Stiegelmeier, CEOs like Brett Hagler, Ben Milne, Liz Georgie, all these amazing folks that I got to sit down for a whole hour and just talk. And oftentimes before we were hitting record and after we were hitting record too. These great conversations with people who are excited to share their story and willing to jump on a Zoom call or an in-person meeting to talk about leadership. So I personally have got to benefit from all these incredible one-on-one conversations, getting to know these people a little bit better. Sure, I always joke in a place like South Dakota, you could probably meet with almost anybody for at least a coffee, but a real heart-to-heart 1 hour conversation about things that really matter. So that was just the personal benefit, right, of getting to meet all these great people, to grow my network, make amazing connections, and use it as this kind of cold email. But the second, which you're going to hear about kind of my philosophy here in a little bit, was this personal challenge of, could I do a podcast and could I do it for an entire year? Every year I set 2 words to be my themes of the year. And this year I had 2 words, which were consistency and now. Now is all about living in the moment, living in now. I have these 2 young daughters that are growing up so fast, and I have this final year that I get to be the CEO of Lemonly. to just seize the moment. I think 2020 really helped thrust this theme, but to live in the moment, right? To take nothing for granted. But consistency was all about habits and daily work, whether it be physical exercise, stretching, flossing your teeth, whatever it might be. I'm not inherently a person who's really good at being automatic, robotic, and disciplined. And so I had to push this. I'm still stretching and trying to grow this muscle. And so as a piece of accountability, I thought, could I do a podcast? Could I do it every week? And could I do it for 52 straight episodes? And I'll say, as he probably does his editing, huge shout out to Nate, who at times was editing this show on a Wednesday night or even a Thursday morning before we dropped it every single Thursday. To Nick for helping with show notes and episode descriptions and artwork, to other Lemonly team members who bailed us out on graphic work. There's so many people involved, and we'll thank them at the end. But this challenge of doing everyday work was really a personal decision for me. And I'm excited to say I've enjoyed it so much. Now the goal originally was 1 year. And now this year, we started in June of 2020. The 2021 goal is 52 episodes. So that will end up being, 82 straight episodes if we finish that goal. That's what we're on pace for. So it's a lot of rambling and discussion of this show. And what I want to do is something special here today, talking about that philosophy of daily work and discipline is a concept that I call better every day. It's so important to me, and that it's actually in neon lights in the Lemonly office. When you come in to HQ in downtown Sioux Falls, you can't miss it. It's right there on the left. It says better every day in bright neon lights. And it's a philosophy that we've adapted here at our company and I personally carry with myself. And to fully explain the story, I recently finished a program called On Deck Performative Speaking. It was a 8-week, 15-part class. It's called a cohort-based class online on Zoom with people all over the world, led by and hosted by former Leadmore guest, Robbie Crabtree. I think roughly episode 2021, back in the fall last year, we had Robbie talk about the power of speaking and how leaders can better communicate their thoughts and their ideas. And so I did this course with him, and part of the culmination or the sort of the final assignment of the course was to give a mini TED Talk, an 8-minute talk, roughly. I think I might have gone a little long, about one big idea, a main core idea that you have. And so for me, it was this concept of better every day, something that I live by and I'm happy to teach and share with others. So without further ado, I'll stop talking. Well, you're still going to hear me talk, but I'm going to introduce my mini TED Talk for Robbie's On Deck Performative Speaking course called Better Every Day. Enjoy. Have you ever heard of Mike Winkelmann? He was born in Wisconsin. He now lives in South Carolina with his family. He's an artist, a graphic designer. His style is very provocative. It's unique. It's not quite my taste, but it's very compelling and unique. But what I like most about Winkelmann is he is prolific. He creates a piece of art every single day. And he's been doing that since May 1st, 2007. I've long since admired those people who have the discipline to do something every single day. I mean, outside of like brushing my teeth and sleeping, I can't think of anything I've done every single day since 2007. These people, they find a way to balance the science of constant improvement with the art of dedication and passion. They love the craft. Now I've always taken pride in my ability to improvise, to adjust on the fly, to read a room and say exactly what needs to be said. Now this works great. It's a skill. It's a talent. Until it doesn't work. And when it doesn't, it's a massive failure. I still remember the meeting like it was yesterday. I had the opportunity to pitch in front of one of the fastest growing fintech companies in the entire country. And this wasn't just me in front of, say, the VP of marketing or director of communications. This was me, CEO of Lemonly, with their CEO and their CFO, the two most important people in their company. Now, see, my company, Lemonly, we help clients design clarity. We help tell your story through visuals. We take your confusing message, we make it simple. This company had a confusing message. If you have a confusing message, you need Lemon.ly. And I knew that this company needed Lemon.ly. I remember my mouth getting dry. I remember my bottle of water was all of a sudden empty. I remember my voice started to crack. I remember slipping into weak words like kinda, sorta. I remember being unprepared. And I remember promising myself to never have to do that again. I learned that day that I couldn't just rely on talent. I couldn't rely on my ability to adapt. I couldn't expect success. I needed to earn it. And so today I want to share with you the power of daily work and continuous learning. I have 3 little stories. The first is about Jerry Seinfeld. As a young comedian, Jerry Seinfeld knew he couldn't rely on wit or just luck to be funny. Jokes were not going to rain down from above and be hilarious to everybody, right? He understood he not only needed to practice the material, but he also needed to constantly create new material. And so before he was a household name, Seinfeld promised to himself that he would write a joke every single day. Funny or not, he would get up, he would write a new joke every day. And he called this, "Don't Break the Chain." He attributes this to his success today and gives this advice of write a joke, and he would write a joke, mark it on the calendar. Write a joke, mark it on the calendar. Write a joke, mark it on the calendar. And once he started marking these calendars, he would create a chain, and he just said, do not break this chain. Today, Jerry's chain is still going, and he writes a new joke every single day. This is the power of daily work. My second story is about the late, great Kobe Bryant. Now, Kobe, every offseason, he would get into the gym and make 2,000 shots a day. Now, note, I said make 2,000 shots a day, not take, but make. He would constantly work on his jumper, on his three-point shot, on a new post move. Every offseason, Kobe was adding a new shot or a new element to his game, just constantly improving. Kobe could grab one ball and one person to help rebound, and he could get up 500 shots in 60 minutes. So if he's making 2,000 shots a day, that means he's shooting a basketball in a gym for over 5 hours every single day. This is already one of the greatest players in the world at the time and one of the greatest of all time. He wanted to get better. He was in love with the work. He was a disciple of discipline. That's the second story. Become a disciple of discipline. Now, the third story is about me, John Meyer. I'm the third kid of 4 in my family. I grew up on a cul-de-sac in middle America in a very average state of South Dakota. Now, I'd like to think my story is not fully written yet, but I have already learned the power of always pushing yourself to do big things, to do bigger things, to push your limit. On the physical side, I've gone from being a very average high school track athlete to then going and running my first 5K, to a 10K, to a half marathon, and then on to a full marathon. And in this August, on my 36th birthday, I'm going to do an event called 29029. This is a 36-hour hike where you do the cumulative amount of feet, 29,029 feet, as summiting Mount Everest. 13 times up a mountain and down the gondola, up the mountain, down the gondola. So for me, it's not about breaking a record. There's no time. I'm not competing against anyone else, but it's about competing against myself and stretching the limits of what I believe to be possible for me. On the professional side, I sold my business this January. Sold Lemon.ly after running it for almost 10 years. It's basically the only job I've ever known. Did 11 months in a corporate consulting job, and I've been an entrepreneur ever since. Now, I have no idea what I'm going to do next, but I do know it was time for me to do a bigger thing, It was time for me to chase a new goal. It was time for me to get uncomfortable and push myself to the next level. One of my favorite sayings is, no pressure, no diamonds. Diamonds are created by constant heat and pressure, by daily pushing and pushing and pushing over years and years and years to create beautiful and wonderful diamonds. So those stories are about the power of daily, about becoming the disciple of discipline, and about doing big things. Now, about 3 years ago, at Lemley, every year we do a company retreat in the fall. We go somewhere, we fly our remote people in, and we all gather together to learn, to bond, to hang out with each other, and to get better. I remember we were in this big living room in this giant church basement on a lake in rural Iowa. And I noticed leading up to that event that year that maybe a few of our team members were sort of struggling with what I call the comparison game, right? The feeling of not having enough, of not being smart enough, of not being pretty enough, and not being good enough, based on, of course, somebody else's curated life of highlight reels on Instagram, right? We can swipe through somebody's highlight reel of their life that's perfectly crafted and perfectly filtered. And so I rolled out this new theme at the retreat that year. And what I told the team is, you should only compare yourself to one person, and that's who you were yesterday. How can you be just 1% better? For me, how can I be a better father, a husband, a son, a friend, a CEO, a runner, whatever titles you claim? How can you get just 1% better? Now, Albert Einstein famously said that compound interest is man's greatest invention. The challenge with 1% better is it's basically unnoticeable. You don't even know that it's happening. It's so hard to see in the time. It's just like when people see my daughters, and I, of course, see them and hang out with them every single day. And so when they say, oh my gosh, look how much Margot has grown, I barely notice. And then I look at an old photo, or I realize they haven't seen her in a long time, and it's such tremendous growth, right? So how can you just get 1% better so that over time, that 1% stacks up and the power of compound interest kicks in? So do you remember that Mike Winkleman I talked about at the beginning? The artist from Wisconsin? Well, online, his name is Beeple. And this past March, he sold that piece of art that he was working on since 2007. He sold it as an NFT for $69 million. And that piece of art is called Everyday. Beeple created art every day and became an overnight success. Just a mere 14 years in the making. That is what I believe is better every day. All right, that was my performance of Better Every Day, part of my mini TED Talk of the On Deck Performative Speaking course. I hope you enjoyed that. Something a little bit different, which we thought was appropriate for episode 52. A little bit about myself, something I'm working on, and I hope you enjoyed that. I want to finish with a few just kind of rundown of looking back 52 episodes and just a few stats of what we were able to accomplish here. And we'll finish with some thank yous as well. So we had people from all over the country, and of course all over the world even, listen to the Leadmore Podcast. A large percentage here in Sioux Falls, and then all the way to Chicago, New York, La Vista, Nebraska. I've been to Nebraska. I've never been to La Vista. Every single continent, someone downloaded the Leadmore Podcast in every single continent except Antarctica. So if you know somebody down there hanging out on the base in the ice of Antarctica, send them the Leadmore Podcast so you can check that continent off. You might find interesting the top 5 episodes, the most downloaded episodes from the past year. This is an interesting combination of sort of name recognition, as well as like the ones that started earlier, had a little bit longer lifespan to get episodes, but all over the map too. Number 1, the most downloaded episode from the past year was episode 1 with Governor Dennis Dugard. Which, thanks for everyone for listening to the episode. I will say we've come a long way, both in production, the camera angles, the lighting. We have an intro, just so many other ways we've gotten so much better. So hopefully some of those folks who listened to episode 1 took a chance on another episode. Number 2, is my good friend, former colleague, the CEO of 9 Clouds, Sarah Carnes. We talked about passing the baton and taking on the baton with Sarah Carnes, the second most downloaded. Number 3, an incredible story of love and support and just care was the episode with Chris Maxwell and Molly Weisgrim from Fort Pierre, South Dakota, about getting through tragedy and really healing together. That's the third most listened episode. Number 4 was one of my favorite people, one of the smartest people I know, was Dr. David O'Hara, where he talked about learning from the past to learn for the future. Dr. O'Hara, huge, very popular Leadmore guest. And number 5, of course, was Vani Harari, Why Leaders Need to Speak Up. That was episode 2. So 2 of those very early ones where we talked about the Black Lives Matter movement and what was going on in the country at this time a year ago. Very important episode. So those are the top 5 episodes. We had a 53% male to 47% female ratio of guests. They came from 12 different states across the country. I think we're trying to do our best to make sure that we're showcasing leadership in all angles, giving those a platform and a voice to share their story. And I thank you for being on that journey with us. So let's finish with big props. My good friend Nate, who made sure that this podcast wasn't just amateur hour by myself, teaching me about sound equipment, teaching me how to, better prepare and get the guests ready and to do the editing. To Nick from our team, who helps with getting the episodes posted, thinking about social media promotion and episode descriptions. And then most recently here toward the end of the year to Knock. Knock has been great with thinking about ideation and potential guests and getting those guests invited and onto the show. I am a leader who recognizes my weaknesses, and I'm a leader who believes in doubling down on your strengths and punting on your weaknesses. And so I've been able to, thankfully, and very grateful to surround myself with awesome other team members and colleagues to make this show possible. So to Nate, to Nick, and to Knock, completely coincidence on that, the triple N's, thank you so much. And thanks for being on this journey here on the Leadmore Podcast. So with that, thank you to you for listening. Like I said, whether it was 1 minute of one episode or all 52 episodes, I'm very grateful, and we're not done. We still have a big mission to accomplish. We believe the world needs more leaders, and I want you, if you are listening to this, I want you to consider yourself to be that next leader. I believe you can, and we're here to help you on that journey. Thank you for listening. Take care and be well.